My name's Natalie Vargas Nedvetsky, and I'm the founder and artistic director of Literary Music Series. Welcome back. It's been a while. I want to dedicate this opening episode of this season to my late teacher, Joseph Kallichstein, who was one of the inspirations behind my starting this series in the first place, who loved this series, and who actually loved this piece in particular that we will be exploring today. Without further ado, today we will be discussing Brahms's Opus 10 No. 1 Ballad in D minor, and Edward, which is an old Scottish folk ballad that Brahms based this piece off of. And before we discuss the intricacies of both masterpieces, let's take a moment to explore the meaning of the word ballad. So, in written form, a ballad is a narrative that is broken up into short stanzas, and it's usually associated with song as well. And in music, it's quite literally a narrative set to music. So Brahms artfully employs both. Now, the story of this poem is probably why Brahms was so inspired by it, because it holds so much paradox. We will discuss that in a moment, but the story goes. Edward, a young boy, walks into his mother's room, and his sword is dripping in blood, and he is covered in blood. And his mother asks him, "Why is your sword covered in blood? What did you do?" And he said, "Oh, I killed a hawk." She said, "No, you didn't. That doesn't make sense. That's not the color of a hawk's blood." He says, "Okay, I killed a steed." She says, "No, you didn't. The steed is old, and that makes no sense." And then finally, he looks at her and confesses, "I killed my father." And that's the climax of the poem. And he falls to his knees, and she says, "What are you going to do now? What is going to happen to your child, to your future family? What is going to happen to me? What is going to happen to you?" And the poem ends with uncertainty, with darkness. And that uncertainty and darkness is woven throughout the narrative in general, because we don't know why he killed his father, we don't know where, and we don't know what happens next. And now, these themes that the poem expresses, this paradox between the heaviness of death and the reminder that this death was committed by a child, the uncertainty, the open-ended quality is all expressed in the music. And so let's discuss that now. Brahms employs this paradox in the way he sections out the music. The opening is in D minor, the middle section is parallel to that in D major, and then we return to D minor. And in the opening, I see a conversation between mother and child. The first lines, for me, is the mother's theme. They're barren and cold with incomplete chords. It feels like a funeral march. The mother is seeing her child in front of her covered in blood, and she, with a somber, questioning tone, asks why. And here's the opening. Those chords are not complete chords. They're open, they're barren. And then what follows is Edward's theme, a response to his mother's questioning. This is, to me, aimless, restless a little bit, searching for an excuse but unable to find one, and thus he falls back into his mother's questions. And this is what that sounds like. That last chord weaves so effortlessly back into the mother's theme because it, again, is an open-ended chord. And before the answer comes, the big confession, the middle section ensues after this back and forth questioning between the mother and child. And to me, here is where we see the ultimate paradox. My interpretation is that this middle section is a moment of reflection on the past, of what Edward used to be. A carefree child tumbling towards what seems like a promising, exciting, multifaceted, kaleidoscopic future, only to fall, in the climax of it all, back on his own sword. And at the climax, here, he confesses the murder of his father with the return of his own theme, which you will hear. And this time the theme is not restless or aimless. It's explosive. A descent after that into reality ensues. And after that confession, you hear the rest of Edward's theme, but there's a sort of heaving to it. There's a gasping for breath after the confession. There's everything pouring out of him. And then the opening returns with his mother's theme, but now it's accompanied with something in the left hand, which to me sounds like droplets of blood. I'll show you what that sounds like. So we have the mother's theme, right? But what is that in the left hand? To me, it sounds like droplets of blood. And it makes sense because Edward's restless theme that we heard in the beginning, nowhere to be found anymore. Because the murder has been confessed and he has nothing more to hide. And the last measure, with a final twist of the knife, for me, depicts the last words of Edward. When his mother asks at the end of the poem, "What will you leave your own dear mother?" And he says, "The curse of hell from me shall you bear." And we hear that in the final dissonance, the final turning of the knife, as I said, in the last measure. Right there. Now, here is the poem, Edward, and Brahms's Opus 10, number 1 Ballade in D minor. Why does your sword so drip with blood, Edward, Edward? Why does your sword so drip with blood, and why so sad go you, oh? Oh, I have killed my hawk so good, mother, mother. Oh, I have killed my hawk so good, and I had no more but he, oh. Your hawk's blood was never so red, Edward, Edward. Your hawk's blood was never so red, my dear son, I tell thee, oh. Oh, I have killed my red-roan steed, mother, mother. Oh, I have killed my red-roan steed, that before was so fair and free, oh. Your steed was old, and you have got more, Edward, Edward. Your steed was old, and you have got more. Some other sorrow you bear, oh? Oh, I have killed my father, dear mother, mother. Oh, I have killed my father, dear. Alas, and woe is me, oh. And what penance will you bear for that, Edward, Edward? And what penance will you bear for that, my dear son? Now tell me, oh. I'll set my feet in yonder boat, mother, mother. I'll set my feet in yonder boat, and I'll fare over the sea, oh. And what will you do with your towers and your hall, Edward, Edward? And what will you do with your towers and your hall that were so fair to see, oh? I'll let them stand till they downfall, mother, mother. I'll let them stand till they downfall. For here nevermore must I be, oh. And what will you leave to your children and your wife, Edward, Edward? And what will you leave to your children and your wife when you go over the sea, oh? The world is large, let them beg through life. For them nevermore will I see. Oh, and what will you leave to your own dear mother, Edward, Edward? And what will you leave to your own dear mother, my dear son? Now tell me. Oh, the curse of hell from me shall you bear, mother, mother. The curse of hell from me shall you bear, such counsels you gave to me. Oh.